Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're diving into AI and copyright today with a focus on your question. Can a robot be an author? You shared some excerpts from a January 2025 U.S. Copyright Office report, and we're going to take a look to see what we can uncover.
It's a question a lot of people are asking as AI becomes more and more prevalent in creative fields.
Yeah, it seems like AI is everywhere you look these days, from music to visual arts.
Yeah.
Even writing AI is transforming how we create, expand. But where does that leave copyright law?
Well, copyright law protects the expression of an idea, not the idea itself. It's kind of like a cake recipe. Many people can have the idea for a chocolate cake, but the specific instructions, the unique expression, that's what copyright protects.
The report mentions a case, Feist Publications, Inc. versus Rural Telephone Service Color. What happened there?
Oh, yeah. In that case, someone tried to copyright a phone book.
A phone book.
Yeah. They claimed that the effort they put into creating it warranted copyright protection, but the court disagreed.
Really?
Yeah. They emphasized that effort alone isn't enough for copyright. There needs to be some creative spark.
So how does this apply to AI-generated art? Would that be considered creative expression?
That's the big question, isn't it? The U.S. Constitution grants copyright to authors, and robots weren't exactly on the Founding Fathers' minds back then.
True, but copyright law has adapted to new technologies before photography, for example.
Oh, yeah.
Initially faced similar questions.
Exactly. That's a great point. The case Burrough-Giles Lithographic Co. versus Sarony from the 1880s is a perfect example of this.
What happened there?
Well, there were arguments that photography was purely mechanical, but the court sided with the photographer. They recognized the creative choices involved in things like posing, lighting, and composition. Human creativity, even when using tools, remains central to copyright.
So you're saying AI is a tool, like a camera or a paintbrush. So if I use AI to create something, does that mean my work is automatically copyrighted?
Not necessarily. The U.S. Copyright Office makes a distinction between AI as an assistant and AI as the sole creator.
No.
Well, if AI is assisting you, like in advanced Photoshop, your creative input is protected. But if AI generates the work entirely on its own without any human input, then no copyright exists.
I see. So there's a difference between AI being a helper and AI being the artist.
That's right. This distinction comes from the principle that non-human entities can't hold copyrights.
Which makes me think of that famous monkey selfie case, Neruda versus Slater.
Exactly. The courts ruled that the monkey couldn't own the copyright to the selfie, even though it pressed the button. Similar to that, there's a case, Thaler versus Perlmutter, where a guy tried to copyright an AI-generated image, and he was refused.
Wow. So no robot artists receiving awards anytime soon, at least for now. But what about situations where people create those super detailed prompts? Where they're practically scripting the AI's output. Would that level of control grant them authorship?
That's the prompt puzzle, as some people call it.
The prompt puzzle?
Yeah. It's a good way to put it. Currently, prompts are seen as uncopyrightable ideas or instructions. It's the AI's interpretation and creating choices within those parameters that shape the final work.
So it's not just about what you tell the AI to do. It's also about how the AI interprets those instructions.
Exactly. The report gives a great example of this with a cat photo.
A cat photo?
Yeah, it was generated from a detailed prompt. The prompt specified a lot of details, but the AI actually filled in some gaps, added elements that weren't explicitly requested.
Oh, interesting. So the AI was making some creative decisions on its own.
Right, which shows its independent creative role.
That makes sense, but I'm curious, what if a prompt is so detailed that the AI has no room for interpretation, essentially acting as a robotic hand executing precise instructions?
That's a really interesting point.
Would that change things?
Well, it's a compelling argument.
Yeah.
And one that's being debated. A prompt demanding a photorealistic image of a futuristic city half submerged in water leaves less room for AI interpretation.
Right, that's very specific.
So perhaps someday those kinds of prompts will grant copyright. But AI's black box nature adds another layer of complexity.
What do you mean?
Even with those super detailed prompts, AI can introduce unpredictable elements. You might refine a prompt over and over again, and yet the AI might still surprise you.
Oh, like that human hand mysteriously holding a newspaper in the cat photo.
Exactly. That's a perfect example. This unpredictability highlights the challenge of establishing definitive human authorship in AI-generated works.
So it seems like there's a distinction between AI as a collaborator and AI as the sole creator.
Yeah.
But that line can be pretty blurry when it comes to authorship and copyright.
It certainly can be. It definitely can. Yeah.
What about scenarios where AI is used to modify existing human-created work?
Hmm.
Like, let's say I'd use AI to alter a sketch or photo that I created.
Hmm.
Do I still retain the copyright?
That's a good question. It's like remixing, a concept that's pretty well established in copyright law. If you use AI to enhance or modify your original creation, you're still the author.
So my original work and the AI-assisted modifications are both protected.
Yes, both are protected.
Because it's still my creative vision guiding the process with AI, just acting as a tool.
Exactly. You got it. The Copyright Office recognizes this in a bunch of cases, especially with visual art. Artists using AI to transform their drawings or photos are granted copyright protection for those final creations.
Because they're the ones driving the creative decisions.
Hmm.
The AI is like a really sophisticated digital editing tool.
That's a great way to put it.
Exactly.
To give you an example, the report talks about a case with this artist, Chris Castanova.
Chris Castanova.
Yeah, they submitted a comic book for copyright registration, and the comic used AI-generated images. But the artist had created the original artwork that was used as input, and they wrote the story and arranged the images.
So the artist provided the foundation, and then the AI helped to build upon it.
That's a perfect analogy. The Copyright Office granted the registration, but they emphasized that the copyright only covered the artist's contributions, the original artwork, and the comic's overall arrangement.
Okay, so it reinforces the importance of that human touch in copyright.
Absolutely, it does. And this aligns with the Copyright Office's stance on encouraging people to use AI creatively. It's a powerful tool, like a brainstorming partner. It can help you push those creative boundaries. Think about musicians using AI to generate musical ideas or filmmakers using it for visual effects.
Right, so it's about harnessing the potential of AI while still retaining human control in that creative direction.
Exactly. As long as a human is guiding the process, making those creative decisions, copyright protection applies. So for our listener, the takeaway is clear. Robots don't hold copyrights, at least not yet. Human creativity is still king.
We've explored various scenarios, legal cases, the Copyright Office's perspective, and it seems like the key takeaway is the distinction between AI as a collaborator versus AI as the sole creator.
Yeah,
But this line can be pretty blurry at times.
it certainly can, and it becomes even more complex when we consider how rapidly AI is advancing. What happens when AI becomes so sophisticated that it's almost impossible to tell the difference between human-made art and AI-generated art?
That's a really interesting question. How would we define authorship then? How would we apply copyright law? It seems like we're entering uncharted territory.
We are. It raises fundamental questions about the nature of creativity and authorship in the age of AI. It challenges our traditional understanding of these concepts.
It's a discussion that goes beyond just the legal frameworks and delves into some philosophical territory.
It does. For instance, if an AI creates a piece of music that deeply moves us, can we truly deny its creative contribution? Or if an AI writes a novel that resonates with readers, can we simply dismiss it as a product devoid of authorship? These questions highlight the evolving relationship between human and artificial creativity.
It seems like we're moving beyond a simple question of, can a robot be an author, to a deeper exploration of what it means to be creative in a world that is increasingly intertwined with AI.
You hit the nail on the head. We're witnessing a paradigm shift in how we understand and interact with creativity.
This deep dive has definitely shed light on the complexities of AI and copyright. It's highlighted the evolving legal landscape and raised some really thought-provoking questions about the future of creativity.
It's an ongoing conversation, one that requires us to stay informed, adapt our understanding, and maybe even redefine our definitions of authorship and creativity.
While we've focused on the U.S. perspective, this is a global issue. Other countries are grappling with similar challenges, and there are some fascinating variations in their approaches.
Absolutely. There are, for example, South Korea allows copyright for modifications made to AI-generated works, but not for the original AI creation itself.
So if I take an AI-generated image and add my own elements, I could potentially copyright those additions.
That's right. It's a similar concept to the remixing we talked about earlier.
Interesting. What about other countries?
Japan takes a kind of multifaceted approach. They consider things like the level of detail in the prompts, the extent of human modifications, and the selection process from AI-generated options.
So they're really trying to assess the degree of human involvement and creative control?
Exactly. They're looking at whether the AI was basically a tool that was just following instructions or a partner in the creative process.
It seems like the general consensus around the world is that you need human involvement to get copyright protection. Are there any countries that are doing things differently?
There are always exceptions. The UK is a good example. They have a law that protects works created entirely by computers.
Wait, so robot authors are okay in the UK? That sounds like something straight out of science fiction.
It's a law that's been around for a while. It
Okay.
comes from a time before people really understood AI's creative potential, so they're currently looking at whether it still makes sense in the age of AI.
Wow. It's fascinating to see how different countries are approaching this issue. It really highlights the need for discussion and collaboration as AI continues to evolve.
I agree. It's a global challenge that needs a global response.
So for our listener who is really interested in AI and copyright,
hmm
what's the key takeaway from all of this?
I think the main point is that AI is changing how we think about creativity and authorship. It's forcing us to ask questions that we never even thought about before. The legal landscape is constantly shifting, and there aren't always clear-cut answers.
It's a dynamic and often ambiguous terrain.
Exactly. The key is to stay informed, be adaptable, and maybe even embrace that ambiguity. After all, it's that uncertainty that makes this intersection of AI and creativity so interesting to explore.
This deep dive has definitely given us a lot to think about. We've explored legal precedents, philosophical questions, and the global implications of AI on copyright.
And we've only just scratched the surface. As AI gets even more advanced, these questions will become even more complex and nuanced.
It's a journey of continuous learning and adaptation.
Absolutely. Who knows? Maybe someday we'll have AI lawyers arguing copyright cases in front of a robot judge.
That's an interesting image. But for now, we hope this deep dive has given our listener a better understanding of AI and copyright.
We encourage you to stay curious. Explore what AI can do creatively. And join us on future deep dives as we continue to navigate this exciting and constantly changing world.
Thanks for joining us on this exploration. Until next time, keep those questions coming and keep diving deep into the world of knowledge and discovery.